Hey folks, Laura Wilsey here with you and Heidi Potter to welcome you to the Fundamentals of Horse Week, week number 5. We're so pleased to have you all with us today as we go over this next session. Heidi's going to go over a couple really key points about the webinar in just a couple moments, and I'm going to bore you with stuff. Just kidding. We're pleased, actually. I didn't know if you folks knew that Heidi and Sharon have been collaborating doing some what we call phase clinics. And basically it is about 3 chapters of the book. I mean, a lot of the times the whole book does end up getting touched upon, but we're trying to focus on 3 chapters at a time for each phase. And we have currently up to phase 3. And we do plan to have a phase 4 clinic at some point. So it would be, check our newsletter and our website for those events coming up later this year, as well as into 2020 already. We are going to Upreach Therapeutic Riding Center this coming weekend over in Goffstown, New Hampshire for a 2-day clinic, as well as we have a visitor from Japan. If you folks didn't know, that HorseSpeak is actually translated into Japanese, which is pretty amazing. It came out in December. And then we're off to Seattle, Washington for a 5-day clinic out there from the Mother Farm. So from the West Coast, you can check out from the Mother Farm to see if there's any room left to be able to attend. So Heidi is going to go over those items with you, and then Sharon's going to get right on and start galloping away with all the great HorseSpeak information.
Thanks, Laura.
Hey!
It looks like we have massive sunburns I'm seeing because of the lighting change from daytime to nighttime, but I'm really hot, just so you know. Just so you know. It is hot here. So anyways, this week's webinar is really great. You guys are going to dive a little deeper into rapport, which is something we all want. HorseSpeak is really something that's going to give you ways to create enrichment and build rapport with the horses that maybe you already have, and you have a whole tool pouch full of things that you've gathered over the years, and it doesn't replace everything, but it'll give you a new way of understanding your horse and allowing you to go a little deeper towards connection with your horse and maybe clear up some misunderstandings that you're having. So I'm sure that you'll find that helpful tonight. Sharon's also going to talk about feet, fun with feet and matching steps and those type of things. And one of the things that I realized in going through years and years of training, different types of training, is that it's really common to up the pressure when the horse doesn't understand something. That's something that a lot of trainers teach. So start really light, start small, maybe it's with a rope or whatever, and if the horse doesn't get it, gradually increase the pressure. And I've really found through HorseSpeak that if you go to using your body instead of upping the pressure, you're going to have really great success, and it's so much easier on the horse. I honestly believe they're wanting to do whatever we want them to do if they could just understand us. So literally backing a horse up, if he doesn't understand a really light cue, if you're pushing energy towards him and you start to pick up your feet, it's amazing. You can even just point to his foot, pick up yours, and they're like, oh, my foot. And so it works so well. And another concept is core, it's energy that I just mentioned. So coming from a martial arts background and centered riding, we talk a lot about awareness of our energy and our core. And Sharon's going to share with you tonight what that's all about in terms of being with your horse on the ground and being mindful about what power comes out of your core and how that can be affecting your horse negatively or not, or positively. So anyways, it's going to be a great class tonight. I hope you all enjoy it. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next session, which will be our final webinar in this series.
On July 31st.
Yes.
So there's going to be a lot of homework, not to freak you out, but you have a whole month to be able to get through the big checklist that you'll see at the end. Right. So Sharon's going to be right over with y'all. We'll be right back.
All right, everybody. So last week we went over the value of rapport. We went over the basics of body language awareness. We talked a little bit about the X and the O, and we started to go into the levels of intensity, active versus passive release. And if you remember, basically how I'm describing it is that horses can do passive releases themselves. They have horse-related stress, like I didn't get to sleep in my favorite shady spot. They can shake that off. They can work that out. But if they have stress that they've taken on based on things we've done with them, then we may need to do things to help relieve that stress as well. So that's the difference. Active zero, which means you're keeping zero on the inside, even if you're moving around on the outside. So zero does not mean zombie. It doesn't mean like, I'm trying to be so quiet. Zero means that your heart rate and your breathing stay low, okay? So you are able to maintain your cool regardless of what's going on around you. Going to zero in the herd and why that's so important for horses. And then of course we ended with enrichment. So this week we're going to talk about deepening that rapport. We're going to go over what is a threshold for a horse, saying yes and no, both our posture and the horse's posture, X, O, and core in daily practice, bending and what that means, matching steps and fun with feet, and they're similar, but they're a little different. And then we're going to talk a little bit about turning the greeting knuckle into a target hand, okay? And a little bit more about the hold hand and other ways to use that. And we're going to be in the G of going somewhere. If you remember last time, there's the 4 Gs. There's greeting, going somewhere, grooming, and gone. And this week, we're really focusing on going somewhere. Last week, we focused a lot more on greeting. We are going to go over some of the other buttons. We're going to talk a little bit about girth button, jump up, hip button. And we're going to deal with holding and activating and what that means for each of those buttons. And then we're going to end with beginning of a grooming ritual, which is called the hug. Okay, so basically, when horses meet, they do a greeting ritual. We talked about that last week. And what I want to say about that is they've been doing greeting rituals since they were born, and they learn how to greet all the members of their herd. And just like with a human social system, you know, if you were meeting the president, you would, you know, greet him in a certain way. If you were meeting the person who does your laundry, you would greet them in a certain way. If you greet someone who's your best friend, you greet them in a certain way. Your family, you greet them in a certain way. But there's certain fundamentals of greeting that are the same. And so that's what we're trying to learn about with horses, is that there's fundamentals of how horses greet each other and why they come into the front of those bubbles to do so. So basically where we're at with the greeting ritual is it's a way to get the ball rolling. And if you've done anything like a formal greeting ritual, if you've done anything remotely respectful, where you said, okay, let me try to get to the front of the horse's bubble, let me try to use my knuckle to relax into the greeting, to breathe, greeting breath is like that, and touch that horse's muzzle. If you've done anything even remotely like that, the horse understands that you're attempting, okay? So don't worry about it. If you're not getting all 3 greetings of a formal greeting, that's fine. I have 5 horses, and a couple of them they do the formal greeting every day. One of them doesn't want to touch my knuckle ever, but she'll always breathe. One of them always wants to come touch my knuckle, but just once, and then she's happy. And one is content either or. They'll blow from afar, or maybe they'll come up, or maybe they'll check in a couple of times. So that is unique to you and your horse, or if you have a couple of horses. You'll find that each horse settles into the greeting that's the most comfortable for them. And what I'm just trying to do for people is prepare you with the overarching theme of the totality of a greeting ritual. It includes the number 3 touches. It could be 1, 2, 3. It could be 3 blows. It could be 1 and 2 and 3. Let's get connected. It could be 1 touch and the horse says that I'm good. It could be you put your knuckle out and they don't want to greet it. They just want to breathe at it. You know, what the point is for you to start getting comfortable recognizing that there's a way to approach and begin that says to the horse, I'm here, hello, good morning, nice to see you. You know, let's get started on a good note, on a respectful note. That's really the main point of it. So don't get hung up, don't worry about it too much. If you are a professional who meets a lot of horses, you're gonna pick up on the greeting ritual in a different way than someone who just has one backyard horse, and it's you and that horse are going to develop your greeting that works for you. I find that people who are professionals and meet many, many horses find this very useful as a diagnostic tool. And I've had feedback from them saying, oh, wow, you know, now I'm starting to get it. And I can see now the horses that are really insecure on that greeting. It gives me insight into how I might need to do the rest of my approach. So it's a really fascinating thing, but it is just the beginning of the conversation. So when we're talking about building rapport, what we're thinking about is that from the moment they're born, they need to feel safe, to be part of a community, and to know their unique place in the world. HorseSpeak teaches us to meet these needs, building deep and true rapport between the horse and human. And really, we've talked about that. We've talked about making a sandwich and the layers of the pie and all the different constructs and roles that horses have in the herd. And what I'm trying to do with that information is give people an opportunity to understand some of the variables that go into a healthy herd and to start to shape our approach and the choices we make around the horses that get the most respect in a herd. And again, when I say the word respect, I just want to mention this. It's a human word, and we can have a lot of strings attached to that word that are based on our social structure and our feeling, oh, someone disrespected me and stuff like that. But horses don't have that kind of attachment to, they don't feel like disrupted and so I'm going to get even with someone who disrespected me. They have an experience of, you invaded my bubble or you noticed my bubble. If you noticed my bubble, I'm going to trust you more and I'm going to engage with you. If you invaded my bubble, I'm going to be a little bit suspect of you. So think that for them, that's what respect is about, okay? So using rapport, basically once the rapport is established, you'll be able to expand what you can ask of a horse and not lose this essential ingredient. If you or your horse lose your zero at any time, you should be able to go back down the ladder to a previous step in which you can both rebuild. That's what's important about this. More importantly, horses wish to live in a state of harmony and rapport. Once you show leadership based on rapport, the horse will seek to keep it going. And that's the cool stuff, all right? As working with horses for a long time, you know, it always felt like you've got to kind of get them going, get them engaged, kind of make it happen. And once I realized how to bridge the gap into understanding what they value, how they value it, how they see the world, what's important to them, and what elders or mentors in the herd really provide for the other members, it totally turned around. So this is what's really exciting for you guys, is just realizing, first of all, when you understand the protocols, you're much more likely to be able to build towards what it is you're trying to do, but also rebuild if you have a bad day. All right, so I've had some people say, oh, you know, I got bucked off, and then ever since then, it's like, you know, we just can't find each other. And we don't know what to do. The horse doesn't know how to repair it. I'm lost and confused. So when you're understanding the protocols of HorseSpeak, then at least you can sort of navigate where you are. You can always start over again with a fresh greeting. You can say, well, let's do some go away face. Let's do some mutual respect. Let's do some bubble work. Let's do some hold. You know, can we just connect? Let's get in and get out from each other's space. We can rebuild rapport. And that's what's awesome about this. So once you're able to sort of see how you're stacking the levels of connection and rapport with you and your horse, if you do have a bad day, you should be able to rebuild that very quickly and efficiently. Becoming Zero Like a Mentor is really about figuring out how it is that you take that calm, consistent, quiet inner state to your outer actions, to the right intensity level, and in the right protocol for what you're doing. So in this picture, I had just met this herd. I was at a clinic and I had walked down into their world and I had done a very quick greeting with each horse. Now that's because there's a lot of loose horses and I don't have the liberty to do a slow, methodical greeting with each horse. So I went up and said, 1, 2, 3, and the next one. I went around to each muzzle. Then I offered go away face. Now, if there was a horse close to me, I might have actually touched it. If there was a horse further away, I might have aimed and looked at it, maybe snapped a little bit, maybe just held my hand up like that. If there was a horse that was already doing one, I might have just copied and done one too. All three of those are go away face: touch, aim, and also turning my own head. So those are three ways to show mutual respect. I won't pop your bubble, you don't pop mine. And this, I had been with this herd for maybe, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. And I put my hands in hold and said, okay, I'm gonna leave. That was very nice. And they dropped their heads, moved their heads. The big horse in front that's walking off camera, she was the lead mare. She moved out of the way. All I needed to do was hold my bubble of personal space and move out of there quietly. And I had this really lovely, quiet response from horses I didn't know. And so that's what I'm excited to share with everybody, is that once you're natural and, you know, these gestures are just part of your system, you don't have to think about it so much anymore. This the possibility is that you can bring your group of horses, or if you work with horses, you can bring something unique and really delicious to the equation that horses are actually looking for. And when you show it, they, oh my gosh, they're so happy. So we're going to talk a little bit about another way to bring a release. When, I call this the oh shucks. When a horse does this, it's always a common, they're putting their nose to the floor, there's nothing down, they're just putting their nose down. When a horse does this, they are talking about dropping intensity level, okay? Releasing pressure. It could be that you showed up and you were all X and intense, and the horse took one look at that and dropped their nose. That would be saying, you're intense, could you lower the intensity? It could be that the horse was intense and I did some things and they feel relaxed, and their response is to go, oh shucks, okay, let me lower that intensity. It could be, I asked the horse to lower the intensity by looking down, breathing out, digging my toe. This is the one they seem to like the most. Dig my toe into the dirt just a little bit, and maybe even point downward with my finger. Okay, I might do any or all, be in an O posture. Basically, it's downward energy. I'm looking at the ground. I could bend over and put my nose on the ground, but that's very awkward. So when I do these gestures, horses generally get it, that that's what I want. And I'm then saying to the horse, can you lower the intensity? So it can be shared. In this moment, the horse and I were sharing. We had done some activities together, and he was feeling good about it. And so he did an oh shucks, and so I copied him. So we shared space together saying, isn't that nice? We're getting along. We can keep this intensity low. This is not that stressful. So this is a wonderful thing to recognize, both that your horse offers you and that you can offer the horse. So we're going to talk a little bit about thresholds. And this is a tricky subject for a lot of people to understand, because when we walk into a new environment, you know, you walk into this environment here, you see fences, cars, another horse, trees, maybe there's a barn off in the distance. You know, I like the color of that barn. But we go, we label everything, and then we're done with it. We don't worry about it. We don't just think that fence is going to fall down. We don't think that there's tigers lurking behind. But the horse's brain, this is where our two brains are very different, okay? The horse's brain is not designed to do that. They are not designed to walk into a new environment and go, oh, that's all okay. They're designed to walk into a new environment and say, where's the tiger? Okay, that is literally how nature has got them programmed. So when they go from the stall to the aisle, that's a threshold. When they go from the aisle to the door of the barn, that's a threshold. Door of the barn to the driveway, driveway to the riding ring to the trail, you name it. Ding, 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 ding. They go from being a loose horse to putting a halter on. That's a threshold. That's a change. So every single time there's a change for them, that reticular activating system is going to start to look for where the danger could be. Now, let's say there's a zebra out grazing and the grass is blowing in the wind, and there's a lion hiding in the grass, and the lion is supposed to blend in and not disturb the grass so they can hunt, right? So the zebra's reticular activating system is going to be so fine-tuned that if there's a slight variable in the grass, that zebra's brain is going to say, "Dunk, there's a little change over there. It could be a lion." Because if they don't do that, they could be dinner, right? So the horse's brain is literally designed to pick up on tiny minutia that could be a threat. So the reason I go into things like the sentry, scan the horizon, kick the fence posts and secure the environment, be secure in yourself, let the horse know, I won't pop your bubble, let's greet respectfully, let's have respect when we first get there, all this kind of stuff, is because what you want to say is, I've got you. When we go into this environment, I will check for boogeymen. And for us, it's kind of funny, but for them, it's not. In their brain, it's not funny. So just understanding that every single threshold for the horse's brain is something to be dealt with. And some horses deal with it by shutting down. Some horses deal with it by low levels of stress and anxiety. Some horses are just a little bit better at kind of rolling with it. And you may see the ears might be a little perky, but that's the only indicator you have that they're worried at all. So just make sure that you understand that every threshold needs to be negotiated, because you don't want to be assuming that the horse is fine when they're really not. Talk about saying yes and no. When a horse is in their O posture, that's their green light. Okay, that's their yes. If it's a real O posture. We talked last time about the possibility of a horse being shut down. Okay, so that's like the eye is cold and hard, the mouth is tight, the chin. Always watch the chin, right? If they have a hard, tight chin, everything else might look okay, but that chin is tight. So there's a lot of little markers to watch for. Is the crest of the neck relaxed, or is the neck still tense? Is the chest relaxed and forward, or is it still up? So there's a lot of little markers to look for to see, is the horse actually in the green light? Are they actually in O, or are they just hiding? Okay, because they can go into that F, the freeze, and just not move, but they're not really in an O posture. But basically, if a horse is in that posture, everything looks calm, relaxed, deep breathing is happening, then that's a yes, it's a green light, it's an acknowledgement. So don't think that a dozy looking horse is not paying attention to you. It's not possible. Their reticular activating system, their brain, their amygdala, all the scanning parts of their brain are so wired all the time. They could be looking like they're sleeping like this and go to running in 2 seconds, because that's how they're wired to do. So you have their attention if they're with you, and if they're breathing, and if they're relaxed. In fact, the more relaxed they are with you, the better of a job you're doing saying, you're safe with me. So now they're going to pay attention to you even more. Now, a no, obviously, is when the horse is in their X posture. So head, tail, the shoulders up, the back is arched, the hips are up, the legs are tight. They feel like they're standing on their tippy toes. They don't look like they're breathing. Everything is tight. The eyes are tight. The ears, okay, all this stuff. That's the horse going into a red zone. Okay, so that's no, it's red zone. They've been switched into fight or flight. You don't have a horse anymore. All right, if they've gone all the way into the red zone, you really, good luck, because you got to wait until they can settle down again and come out of that and start working towards green. So a horse in a yellow zone is always something to really watch. A lot of horses will work they kind of put their work face on. Okay, going to work. And that's kind of a yellow. It's not green, like going to work. They're just, okay, doing my job. As long as it's yellow towards green, it's not the worst thing in the world. But if it's yellow, that's getting more and more and more quiet, more and more and more shut down, more and more stoic, things like that. You got to watch out for that, because that could be going towards a red. All right. And that's where you look for more tension in the face. The face is just getting more and more and more tense. They might be doing everything you're asking, or they're not breathing, and you can tell they're just so tucked up. So you really want to pay attention to that. And for us, our O posture is a way to say yes. Our breath is a way to say yes. Okay. Our X posture is a way to say no, or hold on, or don't go any further. And hold is just It's yellow for me too. So I don't want anything. I'm not asking you to do anything. I don't want you to come over here. I'm not going to go over there. We're just agreeing to share space, and that's it. We're going to have a nice pause. So X and O in your daily practice. This horse to me looks like he may be trying to greet her. It doesn't look overly aggressive. I think he's reaching his muzzle. Of course, he's trying to reach her muzzle. So that's why we have this. This is exactly why this is the most important thing, because when you have a knuckle for greeting, you also have a landing pad, okay? And what you don't want is for the horse to try to figure out what part of your body they're supposed to touch. Because we're a vertical body and there's a lot of spots they could touch. And they could sniff your pockets, or they could sniff here. And it's confusing to them, and it's confusing to us, because if a horse is reaching in, you know, kind of gently trying to sniff us, we may be inclined to go, oh, that's nice, but you could see her posture just like, that's kind of a lot. So having a landing pad is really essential, so your horse knows where they can reach out to you, and making sure if the horse's face is coming towards you, your landing pad needs to be going towards them, okay? Don't wait until they're in here and then do this, because that's like you let them pop your bubble, and that will drive them crazy, because they're like, where is it? You said your bubble was over here, now you said it's over here. Which one is it? Okay? They like it to be the same, because they want it to be predictable, and they want to know, they don't want to get it wrong, okay? So your O posture, if you're sort of an O person, you may have horses coming in more often. So just in your daily life, just kind of pay attention to what is going on with all of that. And in this situation, I would have probably greeted and then done a go away face, either in the air or touching, to say, you know, that's a little too close, thank you, but no thank you, you need to move away. So we're going to talk a little bit about the core, and human beings express their core through basically where your belly button is. And the horse expresses their core basically through the center of their chest. So where the center of their chest is aiming is where they intend to go. Same for a human's belly button. If I'm aiming my belly button this way, but I'm looking that way, you would know that I'm going this way. Okay, same with a horse. So in this situation, his core and my core are both aimed the same way. So he is technically with me, but he's looking over there, which is probably a boogeyman. He was a little nervous. And just because he's a big boy doesn't mean he's not nervous. So I'm doing a hold hand on his neck to give him space and connection. And I guarantee the next thing I did was blow away that boogeyman. So if you're combining all these things together, so now we're thinking a little bit about having some fun with it, okay? So in the first picture, I've got my knuckle, which is now turning into a target. Okay, so I would have been greeting him and then moved it as an indicator, follow this, or moved it across, follow it like that. So now you have this arm that can sort of sweep and offer movement. And that's similar to when they'll do a scoop. It's gentle. It's not the head toss. This sort of, they spin their head really, that's aggression or anxiety or stress, tension. But when they do this on each other, this nice, with the head and neck, they're saying, come here, just like, come here with my shoulder. So I can now do this and say, follow this. And my knuckle is right in front of my belly button. Okay, so my core and my knuckle are going in the same way. So it's very clear. And then so he yielded his head, go away, face and neck, and I started walking, and he started walking with me. So a few shots later, then I said, okay, now O posture, come back in here. And he turned and bent his neck towards me, looking at my knuckles. And he's saying, should I come back? Should I come back? Should I put my face there? Should I stop? No, we're walking. So as long as we're walking, I could have changed direction. I'm not sure what I did next, but this is the idea, is that now you can use your postures on purpose. It's a lot of fun, and it helps you and your horse have something to talk about. So we're thinking about bending the neck. A lot of people call it halter tag. Horses have this thing where they go from the greeting to the go away face, okay, go away face, and now they have this thing of neck bending, okay? And they might do a neck bending halter tag game where the first horse to move his feet lost that game, okay? But they'll play this game usually over and over and over again. I don't know how they keep score. But when you see them aiming towards each other, they are a little bit at a 45-degree angle, chest to chest, but you can see them moving the head and neck. And these two did play quite a lot. So we have some great pictures of them. When we as human beings want to practice bending the neck away, what we're saying is, I want to work on my hierarchy with you, which includes bending your neck away, okay? So if you see like a mother coaching her baby, or a mentor coaching, a youngster, or any of those situations, it's not halter tag. It's they might even nip in the middle of the mid-neck button here, and that horse, has to get out of there, okay? Because you're really talking about it. So I don't want you to look like halter tag, okay? That is not what we want to do. So the human being has to move all their body parts to one side or the other side of the horse to do a go-away face, then a go-away neck, all right? And in this particular part, you're not necessarily trying to move the front feet. So if you have a horse who scurries and moves their feet, then they're reacting and they're not really thinking. This is just move your face, move your neck. Excellent. Low posture, breath. Good. Get out of there. Step back. Good job. Okay. And the reason is I want my horse to not be afraid of me moving his neck. And I want my horse to know that I might ask for it sometimes. And I also want to know if my horse has any resistance to it, if they have old baggage around it, if they're stiff in their neck, any number of things. And so the softer and more polite the request is, and the nicer I can be about asking and then retreating and going into my O posture, taking a breath, then the more the horse is just into the flow. And that's what I want. I just want an easy flow, because eventually this turns into the hug, okay? So when horses can move respectfully out of each other's bubble first, that's the first step of negotiating, moving into the bubble and actually wrapping up. Okay, so horses are not going to wrap up if they haven't had this discussion before. They need to know who goes left, who goes right, who calls the shots. If a lion shows up, we don't want to be, oh, who went left, who goes right? No, we don't want to be figuring that out at that moment. We want to have rehearsed it, practiced it, we want to know it, so now we can relax and do something nice, okay? So this is all steps to getting there. For instance, just jumping ahead a little bit, if I now have my knuckles, so I have my target hand, here's my target, and in this case, I can turn my target into a scoop, and it's like an invitation. It's an O, and it's soft, okay? It's not this, all right? This is an X, and it's a drive. So it's this, okay? It's an invitation. And my other hand is asking at the hip drive button with my handy dandy stick that I sell for $19.95. You can get them off the ground. And that is asking at the hip drive button, could you move? Would you like to come this way? Would you move that way? And my core is aimed at the girth of the horse, which says, and please move around, okay? So she's giving me a happy expression, that she's soft, she's bending around me with her face and her neck, and that front leg is actually starting to step out and into the circle, okay? So you can't get to here if you don't have a soft bend in the neck this way and towards you. So the first one is away, and the second one is towards. And I didn't say it a second ago, but I'll mention it now. There's this one, turn the key, come to me. Okay, and we'll go over that again next week. Turn the key, come to me. Now you can just pull in the air, but horses seem to prefer the turning motion, because when I've done it both ways, this way makes it almost like magnetized, and they're like, ooh, and they just want to follow it. So this sort of turning my hand, turn the key, come to me, that seems to be very engaging, okay? So that's an offer to come in. And this is not a cue that you're training them to do. This is an offer. So if you ask, turn the key, come to me. If you ask the neck to bend towards you, wait. Okay, give them a second, because you've just said something it's kind of intimate, right? It's like, you want me to come towards you. Give them a second to sort out how they're going to do that, right? It's just a really fun thing to do with them, where you're creating both a bend away and a bend towards. So we're talking about buddy up and core forward. Basically, we have talked a little bit about the shoulder button being a buddy up spot, okay? So this horse had some difficulties on the cross ties, and what I had her owner do was stand next to her at her shoulder with her core off. And she often went in, like most of us do, and brushing and stuff, and her core was on. Well, this mare was so sensitive that the core on just made her dancy and antsy and uncomfortable. So as soon as she turned her core off, even though she doesn't have her hand there, and she's just basically standing, and she was rocking very lightly, that's all it took. The mare said, great, that's great, you're my buddy, we can relax. And it was so much better from there forward. So if your horse is a little bit dancy-antsy, they're going towards X, they're maybe saying a little bit of no, they're getting a little bit red, whatever's going on, they're just not settling, check. Because if you're standing even at a 45-degree angle towards them, okay, so here's you and the horse going forward, and here's you towards the horse. So you've cut them off. You didn't even mean to. And here's you directly at the horse, okay? So their rules of engagement with other horses are so precise, because they have these huge bodies and they're not supposed to bump into each other by accident. If they're running full tilt and everyone needs to turn right, they need to know how to do that and not run over each other or trip on each other. So their proprioception is so fine-tuned that when we just kind of stand, like we're just not aware of it and we're just kind of facing them, some horses are like, wow, that is really loud. You know, I feel like you're wanting me to move, but you got me tied up and I can't. So just practice that. And, you know, over time, most horses can also relax about it. The more you're aware of it, the more they can say, oh, okay, I don't think you really need to push me. I can calm down about that. But at first, they really need you to know that that's a pressure to them. We're going to talk a little bit about matching steps. So your feet really matter to horses, all right? Look at the horses moving on the side. It's not that they're left to right. It's that their stride is matched. You can almost hear it. So it's like boom, 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 right? It's two, 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 two. There's a even pace. There's a stride. There's a rhythm. There's a cadence. And all of that is so vital to horses. They're listening for it. They're feeling for it. They're paying attention to it. And that's what allows them to move off in a cohesive way. So if we're like, stump, 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 or too quiet, you can't hear your feet, or too strong, or too fast, any of these things are not conducive to keeping your horse moving at zero, okay? So you need to practice finding your feet and having consistent stepping that's rhythmical, that the horse can count on. Because if you pay attention for a minute and then you forget and you paddle, or you get too quiet or whatever, you shuffle. And also when you stop, okay, if you stop your feet but not really, or if you stop your feet one and then the other kind of drags, that makes them crazy, because when they stop, they stop. Those feet are so important to them. So when you stop your feet, okay? You can also stop with your X posture, and you can also stop with your breath. And if you put all three together, okay, feet, hands, breath, all at the same time. That's the best, all right? So now we're thinking about practical application for matching steps. So this horse had been round penned in the past, and it didn't work out so well. She got very tense. She's very, very, very sensitive horse. And she had gotten really just worked up about even being in there. So I had spent a good amount of time just greeting her over the fence and walking around the outside, securing the environment, blowing sentry, doing enrichment, giving her some grass through the fence, all this kind of stuff, just to say, trust me, it's really okay. I'm not gonna freak you out. So by the time I went in with her, she was ready, willing, and able to just move along, keep her head low. She's really working on that low head. She does have a little tail swish in this picture because I'm a little bit behind. And she's basically got her head low, but she got that tail swishing because she's like, you're not going to drive me, right? You're not going to push me forward. That's why I've got my O posture. Nope, I'm not going to push you. We're just walking together. And if I sense a horse is getting agitated, I'll give them even more space. I can very easily go to the outside of the round pen and let them have the inside. There's no rule that says I have to have the inside and they have to have the outside. We can have any side we want as long as we're in rapport. Working at 0 using matching steps. This is really important because we do want to do things with our horses. And what we want to be combining is, can I do my deep breathing? Can I stay relaxed? Can I stay calm? And can I use these postures to help me do so? Okay, so matching steps with the horse is not about right, left. It's about cadence and rhythm, okay? Can we move along in a nice, easy flow? Can I ask you to move along? Can you move ahead of me? Can you move with me? In a little circle, a little liberty work. And if I'm matching my cadence and rhythm with you, then you can tell what I mean, what I want, and I'm not surprising you. And I'm also not pushing you. So then the horses can move into the work that we like to do with them, and they can trust us that just because the activities went up doesn't mean that we became unpredictable or that we lost our 0. Matching steps always says we're in rapport, and it is one of the most natural things for horses to do with each other. You can see many, many, many pictures. You can see a whole bunch of horses sometimes, like in calendars and stuff, and they're all in step, and I'm like, there it is. So this is so vital for them. It's really important for us to kind of sort it out. And they have 4 legs, we have 2. So of course, their front legs are the ones matching our legs. Later, if you're a little bit more advanced, you can figure out how to drop back and indicate their hind legs with your feet as well. But that's a little bit later on. So thinking about fun with feet. If you can do the matching steps, you can start, you can stop. You can move with rhythm and timing and feel. Horses like to have fun with their feet. And since I don't have the speed and agility to run around with them, there's other ways we can have fun with feet that's quiet, that's at a walk, or even a standstill. So you can cross your feet, you go wide and cross and wide and cross. And basically you do it and you let them watch you. And I have yet to see a horse that didn't think about it, maybe even for a full minute, and then go, I think I can cross my feet too. And all of a sudden they go, whoop, whoop. And then they even get like this ear wiggle that I think to me looks a little bit like they're laughing. Horses seem to really love this, okay? So you can also stand in front. I'm in front and I'm lifting my leg and she's lifting her leg. You stand at the side. I'm asking for a higher lift. I'm bowing with the other horse. It's just a lot of fun stuff. Put obstacles out and practice matching steps, fun with feet, over obstacles, around, weaving, da-da-da-da-da. Instead of the groundwork is, okay, horse, you need to go do something, and I'm going to tell you what to do. For me, this is like, we're going to do something together. We're going to practice our X and our O and our core and our matching steps and our fun with feet. And we're going to move in harmony with each other. And we're going to stop when each other stop. Now, I do want to mention this one thing. If you're with a horse that's at liberty and you stop your feet and they march off a few more steps ahead of you and then stop, do not take that as a bad sign. With horses, when the leader stops, it's not uncommon for the other horse, let's say they were moving together and the leader stopped, it's not uncommon for their other horse to get just outside the bubble and then stop, because they're basically positioning themselves in the drive position so this guy can drive them. Okay, so they're in the position so that they're saying, okay, I've stopped, you can tell me when to go. And so this horse then has the control, because they're the ones that says, all right, get going again. Okay, so sometimes horses will do that with us, and that's all it means. Putting it all together. So with this horse, we've got a soft bend in the neck. I've got a turn the key, come to me, encouraging her to come. I've got my O posture, invitation. I've got my core aiming. I'm leaning into my feet. I'm leaning into my steps. And she's absolutely mirroring me. And we had really just met. So this is not something that takes a long time for horses to figure out, because it's so in tune with how they think and how they move. It might take us a little time to figure it out, but once we even, just start taking a stab at it, the horses are like, that's cool, let me follow you. And you can look at the expression on her face. She's focused, she's concentrating, she's into it, but the ears are also like sideways, and she's like, this is interesting. Anything that has to do with balancing and foot positions and movement and harmony together, horses love that stuff. So follow my target. Again, here are some pictures about my knuckle is the target, and it's a soft bend in the neck towards me. And here my fingertip pressure is aimed at the go away face and mid neck and shoulder buttons. So I'm basically doing this. You can do this in the air. So face, neck, shoulder. And she's doing a soft yield away, including a step. Because before we talked about the neck, bending the neck and not moving the front feet. But now when you're moving with them, you are including the front foot. So now you can also indicate the shoulder button for that. Halting with the hold hand. When horses are given the choice and you're not panicking that they're going to try to run away with you. So if you're afraid your horse is going to pull or something, you're worried about using a loose lead rope, then be in a ring or something, be in a secure environment, so that the worst that happens is you drop the rope and go catch them again in a minute. But when you're matching steps and you're very clear in your cadence and rhythm, it makes the most sense for horses to stop with their shoulder on your shoulder. That's the buddy up position. That's feet on feet. And you breathe out, go to X, and stop your feet. And you'll see horses just go boom and land right there. Most of the time, occasionally there's a horse that, is like a little like, what are we doing? But I would say like 90% of the time, horses just, people are like, wow, I didn't know that would happen. So then I have my hold hand there just to reach out, make contact. Yeah, we're buddies. Good job. Now we're moving down a little bit. We're going to talk to the girth button. Okay. So if you've been able to have a good go away face, mid neck button, a little bit of the shoulder button, buddy up, soft bend, move it this way, move it that way, invite it to come, all that kind of stuff. Now we can start thinking about holding and getting connected to the girth button. Now, you see in the mares down below that those girths are all lined up. They're in a fan. They're ready to go. There's equal distance between them. They're a unit, okay? They're grazing, but they are a unit. So that is what is so vital to them about this button. It's an emotional connection. Babies line up there with their mothers, and then herds line up there to be a unit, okay? So if you go to engage with your hold hand at the girth, and it's the line of the girth, so it goes all the way around the whole barrel of the horse. So you could be low, you could be high. But if you go to touch that area and your horse shivers or makes a face or gets defensive, something's going on. Okay, it could be the horse's past, they could be pain, injury, it could be super touchy, it could be a million and one things. But if you get a shiver, a no, a red zone of any kind, or even just they hunker down and make this face, they let you do it, but they're not breathing and they're not present, is you got something that you need to practice. And this can go away surprisingly quickly if you're consistent about how kind you are, okay? So if you can't touch it, then don't. Don't be like, oh, I gotta touch it or everything's gonna fall apart. Nope. In fact, the more you go, oh, are you really sensitive there? Okay, let me get away. How far away do I need to get? Go back to the outside of the stall or the outside of a round pen or the outside of, if they're in a sort of enclosed area, but it's not like 200 yards and you have a lot of walking to do, small enough so that you can kind of engage them, but you have a barrier so that they stay zero and you stay zero, so you can have this conversation and not worry about it. If the horse is really sensitive about it, if they're just kind of sensitive, then you could go to the end of the lead rope, okay? But you want to go as far away as you can to just hold your palm, flat surface, towards the button. Now, horses will aim a flat surface towards each other. Side of the cheek, forehead, the chin, the muzzle, or even the side of themselves. So if you aim a flat surface at a button, you're saying, I just want to make contact. I just want to be with you. That's all I want. You don't have to do anything for me. I just want to be with you. And just kind of hang out there for a minute. Let them process. And we talked about processing before. It takes them a minute to process all that information. They have a big body. It's got to get from the face all the way to the tail. And the tail will go flip, and they've processed. Okay, so stand there, wait. If you get some green lights, get closer. If you finally get in close enough, then you might say, can I touch you there? And they go, shiver, shiver. Okay, how about here, like 6 inches away? How's that? And they might go, okay, that's okay. All right, well, can I touch you now? Like a little bit? Okay, thanks. A little bit more? Okay. A little bit more? Okay, thanks. Cool. All right, that's it for today. Or that's it for now. Come back to it in half an hour. Let's try it again. And what's nice about this approach is that what you're saying to the horse is, I see that you have a super sensitivity there. And maybe I didn't do it. Maybe this comes from your past, but I want to undo it. Okay? Maybe I did do it. Maybe I did something by accident I didn't realize, and now you're super sensitive. Maybe the horse is just super sensitive. Maybe they've had colic surgery or an ulcer or who knows what. So whatever it is, if they're giving you red lights and they're shivering and they're feeling super tense about it, take the time. What I've yet to see is a horse that doesn't let the person in. And it can go faster than you'd think if you're really consistent and kind, okay? And if you can touch it, don't get greedy and go, okay, good, bringing out the grooming brushes, now we're gonna brush. So take the time, take a day, take an hour, take a week, whatever it is that this horse really needs from you, and get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, get out, until they just go, big release, and they go, like that, couple shuddering breath. You can even, as you're doing this, you can yes and no, just to say, don't stress about it, no worries. But if your horse is having a problem with the girth button, then you're not going to want to activate it. I mean, you might have problems under saddle, you might have problems girthing the horse, you may have resistance problems about going forward, they may blank out, they might be obedient, but they're kind of not there. So there's a lot of other issues that can show up, and this is a good spot to notice, any number of other things that are going to show up. If you can hold the girth button and it's okay, and the horse says, yep, we're with each other, that's fine. Now you can activate it. So I'm using now from hold to activation. And so it's one finger or all the fingers, but there's sort of I like to do a scoop in rather than a jab that way. See, this is jabby, but if you turn your hand and you come in, it's more of an O in your request, and it's a lot softer. So I'm not saying you can't do this, but if you do this, just try not to, people, I see them push in and they go all the way, like they're pushing so deep. And this is a really sensitive spot. You don't need to do that. So just touch, and I've got, in both cases here, the horse on the top, I'm asking his neck to bend towards me and his girth to move away. And the horse on the bottom, I'm asking her neck to bend away from me and her girth to go that way. So this is both towards and away. And it's small motions, and I go right back to zero, right back to O posture. Thank you, take a breath, step away when they're done so that everything stays quiet. So remember, when we're practicing the girth button, the horse already knows how to use it. We're not teaching them how to use the girth. We're learning the right approach, especially for this horse. Because you have 10 horses, you're gonna have 10 different opinions about their girth button, okay? Depending on where they are in the pecking order and what their past is and what their level of sensitivity is and do they have injuries, and it goes on and on. So this is a palette for you to understand some of what that button is about and how to begin approaching it in a cohesive way. So this horse here, actually she's on the cover of the book, this is one of the most sensitive, anxiety-ridden, moving towards, you should be so anxious that she would get aggressive horses that I'd ever met. And this is after spending, some really good quality time with her. And you can see that her expression is completely relaxed. Here I am, I'm actually doing this type because I'm seeing how she feels about it. She's like, yeah, it's not my favorite, but it's okay. Her head is low, her lips are relaxed, her ears are sideways. She's lifting her body, she's rolling her rib cage. She's like, got it. I go right back to O posture, thank you. She reaches her head around to connect with me, to stay and buddy up with me. That was fine. So if your horse is giving you these kinds of responses, these kinds of green lights, great. If you're not this level of green light, then this is what it needs to look like eventually, okay? If your horse's head flies up, they start going in a red zone, you know, back down the ladder of success, go back to holding or whatever. But this is just for you to understand that what we're doing is building rapport, we're building connection and quality. Okay, so here we have bubbles, bend, buddy up, girth button, matching steps, and rapport. All right, so all those things are happening with these horses. Now, we can't run like that. We cannot do that level of speed and agility. So usually for a human being, in order to get a horse to run around us, we've invented circles for them to run in. So we put them on a lunge, or we put them in a round pen, or we do liberty and we have them move around, and we kind of stay in the center and they go around us. But for horses, they go together. Okay, so what I'm trying to help people achieve is more of a togetherness movement based on the walk, or even from a standstill, just a step here and a step there. And I literally mean a step. I say it to people all the time, have the horse do a step, and they start asking for something and they've gotten 10 steps before. I'm like, I said one step, but I think we're just so conditioned that more is better, and it's not. It's not. When horses are educating each other, mentoring each other, working, there's a mentor working with a troubled horse, there's a youngster, they will literally spend a lot of time doing a single step, waiting, a single movement, and waiting. Okay, so there's a lot of quality that they put into their single step, and that's to our advantage. If we use that same system, you're going to get further with a lot more concrete connection between you and the horse, so that when you do ask for speed, even though you can't keep up with them, your matching steps, maybe are in place, but you're matching steps perfectly. Your core is lined up with their girth. All your cues, everything is in harmony. You're with them. It's just that you have to look like this, whereas two horses can look like that. So we'll talk a little bit now about the next button, which is the jump up button. Now the jump up button is one of the most vulnerable areas. Okay, you can see here with the lion and the zebra, this is the prime target for a lot of predators that want to take down an equine. They go to this, it's unprotected, and if they grab in there, it's pretty much death to the animal. So it's a very vulnerable area. If you have stiffness anywhere else in the body, okay, stiff go away face, stiff neck, stiff shoulders, stiff girth, you're going to have a stiff jump up button. In fact, the jump up button is probably not even breathing. And that's where you want to be looking for, are their ribs expanding deeply? Is the belly soft and relaxed? Or is it like this and they're not really, there's sort of hyperventilating, okay? So you really need to pay attention to that area of your horse. And again, hold hand, get in, get out, get in, get out. Can I touch you? Is it okay? Can I do a nice quiet stroke? Do not go up to the horse's sensitive area and go, all right, that's stimulating and not pleasant. At a later point, if you're very friendly with a horse and they've got an itchy spot there and you want to get in, do like with your fingertips. But even that, be very, very careful about not doing fast motions with your hand when you're trying to create affection, because it does not feel affectionate. Even if they are like, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, it actually is overstimulating and you've made it worse, not better. Okay, so what's soothing for them is long strokes with the fur. Long strokes with the fur. Long strokes with the fur. Anywhere on the body, not up and down and not fast. Here we have the jump up button between horses, and we have full nursing on the top, and the two buddies that have been running around in the other pictures And when it's sniffing between the stifle and the jump up button, he actually put his nose right underneath there and sniffed for a long time. And this is how horses come together and say, you know, are we okay together? Can we be vulnerable? Can we be friends? Can we trust each other? All of that stuff, all right? So they use that button for the same meeting. And I've had horses go up to other horses who are feeling nervous and sniff them there, okay? So, and sometimes horses who aren't breathing very well, you'll have a horse come up and sniff them for a long time. It's like they're trying to get them to take a big breath. Here you have Rocky is turning Vati, and if you look at her hind feet, right between her front feet there, you can see that she's like, whoop. And so she was making a turn on his request. He had done face, neck, shoulder, girth. And then she got to the jump up button and he said, yep, keep it going. And so she made that very quick turnaround. So because he's doing it in a quiet way, her face is calm, her expression is relaxed. He's blinking, so he's got his pointy face on. It's like pointy finger. He's got his pointy face on, but his eyes are blinking. He's not pressuring her any more than he needs to. So now we think about the hold hand in terms of I've got your back. And we have talked about this a little bit before, but this is one of those things. Horses greet in the front. They touch noses to get connected, but they also have a tail. They have the hindquarter. And when they're in the sandwich position, right, one is following the other. Or you'll have a whole line of horses following each other. So it's nose to tail to nose to tail, nose to tail. So connecting to other horses through the nose to the tail is also important to them, all right? So now I want to bring your hand eventually, when you can, when it's right, when you're ready, to the hip drive button and just rest it. That's it. And if you can't touch your horse there, then don't, okay? If you stay as far away as you need to stay zero and have your horse be zero, and just put your palm in the air. I've done this with horses in a field, like 50 yards away. You can barely see them. They look like a tiny horse. And I put my palm up like this towards their hip with a nice big breath, and I just leave it for a full minute. Okay? Don't be greedy. Just wait it out, because this is really important to them. Because this is the gesture that a horse goes into hold. Okay? And it's a long time, and they show a flat surface. They show their chin. They maintain a steadiness in their posture in relation to the hip of another horse, or the hip of a whole bunch of horses. And that's how one horse can say to the others, I've got your back. So I need to hold my palm in the air so the horse has time to register, because I'm not using my head and neck because I have a different body structure, but this is the same meaning. And I've yet to have a horse, even a fresh Mustang, not be able to relate to this. Okay, so it might take them at first, they're like, what is it? And then they go, oh, and it makes them very comforted. And when you can get in, it's a heavy palm with a downhill stroking. Remember what I said? No back and forth, no, okay, just avoid those things for now, okay? Because you don't want to overstimulate. What you want to do is downhill stroking, soft, round, firm contact, okay? And you're just saying, I've got you. Now in this picture, we're also giving the horse some enrichment. So she's in a quiet place doing her favorite thing, feeling relaxed. And we had actually started from a distance and moved in. And this girl works with her horse all the time. The horse is very comfortable with her, so it was not a problem at all. So we just went in, and it was very easy. And from doing this, she even rocked the baby, and it got to the point where the horse was just rocking her pelvis back and forth. It was very nice. So in these pictures, you can see there's a horse doing it. So that black and chestnut horse we've been seeing in the other pictures, here he is with that button. He's got his muzzle on the hip drive button of the horse in front, and they each took turns doing this with each other. So it's like, okay, you know, and you see he's stretched out, the tail is low, he's a little more O-ish about it because the other horse has gotten kind of X. So he's like, no, I don't mean you any harm. I'm just, you know, is it okay if I'm back here? So this is how they sort it out as well. So everything that I've learned is based on the evidence of really watching how horses do it. And then we have to have our own, of course, we're people, we're not horses, we have to adapt, do the best we can with our adaptation. So those two horses, if the brown horse kicks at the black horse can take it and deal with it. I can't, I don't want to get kicked. So if you think there's any trepidation at all, you do this from as far away as you need to do, because they will see it and they will respond. The horse on the other side is, of course, aiming pointy face at the hip drive button of the other horses, and they're listening to him. Okay, we're going. And so eventually you can aim at it and say, you need to move. And it's not increasing the intensity in the horse's insides. It's just a gesture. So here I'm in the pen with that mare from earlier, and I'm doing an O posture and stepping backwards, and she's literally crossing her feet. I had done some fun with feet doing this, and she'd like that. So she's literally crossing her feet to turn and come to me. So that was a signal like, okay, we're really getting good. She's really feeling comfortable with me in here. So I'm gonna drop back to her hip button, which, remember the picture before, she'd done a tail swish. So I had remembered that as I'm gonna drop back there and do a hold hand. So I'm standing still, I've got one leg cocked, I'm very relaxed. There's my hold hand. She's in an aw shucks. All right, she's like, okay, let's keep the intensity low. You're not gonna push me, right? And if you can look at the slope on her butt and the slope of her tail, that's actually a little bit of a submissive posture. She's like, I'm little, don't drive me. I'm here, I'm listening. So the last thing in the world I was gonna do is drive her in that moment, okay? I'm just like, I've got your back, it's fine. We did end up being able to move off at a nice little trot, and she was happy and easy. I could pick her up and I could ask her to stop. And we could go and we could stop. And she stayed zero and she stayed relaxed. And this was a great day. So these things don't necessarily even take a lot of time. It takes time for us to learn how to do it. And again, am I driving you or following you? Okay, and this is what these little babies are sorting out. So I'm back here. Am I behind you and you're my leader, I'm following you, or am I pushing you and I'm driving you? And they're sorting that out, all right? So I wanna sort that out, not at speed, because if the horse is at speed, their adrenaline could be up, which means they could go into defensiveness faster than I can deal with. I wanna sort this stuff out at a standstill, or at a walk, or at a distance, where I can stay zero, the horse can stay zero, and we can just make sure we know what each other want. And what's great about this is horses love it. Okay, they love doing stuff where they can really think about it. You can just do one step here, one step there, a little walk here, a little walk there, and you watch them, they go, oh. You know, it's very relieving for them to actually have a clear body language to just know what we want. So here's pulling it all together. I've got my hand in hold. I'm doing an aw shucks at the same time. We're in a comfortable position together. In the picture down below, we're doing fun with feet, matching steps, changing direction. I'm pointing at the hip drive button, and she's turning around to follow me. In the horse on horse picture, Rocky's asking the mare to go forward. He's got all of his sharp ears and face and facial expression aiming at the hip drive button, but his eyes are blinking and his head is slow. He doesn't need to bite it or nip it. He's just need to move this. So the mare in front, low head, relaxed gait. She's just gonna move off to the side. And that's what movement at zeros. You should be able to have movement, but not lose zero. Okay, so both of you can just, because horses they can do this. So we should be able to do it too. Going somewhere with rapport. All right, so in these couple of pictures, we had moved close enough to the edge of the driveway where the grass starts to look a little bit interesting. And so this was neat for this mare to be like, I'm on a loose lead rope. I'm inviting her to come to me. She's got an ear on me, and her eyes like, but the grass is right there. And yet she chose to turn and come towards my hand because the gestures were so welcoming. It's very soft. It's very easy. She can't get anything wrong because I've gone through every greeting button, go away face, mid-neck button, bend this way, bend that way, buddy up at the shoulder, one step this way, one step that way, turn the key, come to me. And she's like, oh, heck, you're easy. I'll just work with you. So what I want you to understand is that this is so natural to horses that you'll see these changes in their demeanor and their expression and their willingness. There's going to be the personality that they are, but it's like a light bulb goes off because you make more sense to them. So that set us up for the hug. All right, so here's the neat part. The first is the greeting ritual. That's the first G. The second is going somewhere. That's the next G. Horses need to have all these types of movements and through all the buttons to arrive at a place where they're ready for the grooming ritual. Okay, think of their world as constant, you know, softball practice, okay? It's constantly preparing for this or that or this or that or this or that or this or that, okay? Their brain is designed that at any minute, they might need to defend themselves or run away, okay? So that's how their brain is designed. So they're satisfied when we do going somewhere rituals with them that make sense, that don't overstimulate them, that don't upset them or do the wrong level of intensity, that we stay zero, make our requests clear and concise and consistent, same by same by same by same by same. And then they just let it go. They just let go of tension and stress. And they say, okay, whatever you want to do, that's great with me, all right? Now, that's when they can move into their version of a grooming ritual. I'm not talking about just brushing a horse. So you can get out there and put a horse on cross ties and brush a horse. That's not a grooming ritual for them. We're ready to brush the horse. The horse may not be emotionally ready. Even if they're like, oh yeah, I'm itchy, get it. That doesn't mean they've arrived. Because a horse needs to feel like we've solved these riddles and you're predictable. And I know what you're gonna do, when you're gonna do, why you're gonna do it, and how you're gonna do it, so that I can relax and trust your leadership. So instead of the groundwork being about I make the horse do things, the groundwork is about we do things together to make sure we're really, really, really clear with each other about who does what, where, why, when, and how. Then the horse can relax. Now you have a bending the neck towards, okay? Now you can start to go into this hug position, which is underneath. It's the go away face, but now it's come here face, okay? So I've got the go away face button, come here face. I've got my knuckle out in front so she can land. So that's her thing, she can sniff. Okay, now when you first start doing this to a horse, it's not uncommon for them to kind of pull the head away because this is a pretzel pose. It might be a little bit surprising. They might get just a little bit reactive. I want to know that. I want to halter a horse in hug position. We're going to bridle a horse mostly in this position. So I want this position to be super comfortable and comforting and a nice connection point for us instead of just something I struggle to do, okay? So if they pull their head away, don't worry about it. Just take a big breath, go back to O posture, offer another one. Offer another, just keep doing it in a nice friendly way until they go, okay, okay. And you will see them kind of blow out, breathe out, and never hold them in the position. Okay, you don't make them stay there. You invite it, and when they're ready to go, they go. And what happens is they start to seek it. A lot of horses start to kind of pull you in at the appropriate time, but it's not this push, shove, headbutt, all that kind of crazy stuff. It's very sweet and very polite. Your homework is to go take a nap with the horse. Not really. Your homework is to do a lot of things. So you're going to really be thinking about deepening the rapport that you've started building. Where are you in the 4 Gs? Okay. Saying yes and no, having a pause, green light, red light, yellow light. Where's your X? Where's your O? Where's the horse's X? Where's their O? Where's your core? Where's your horse's core? Okay. Thresholds. Okay. I walk by that mailbox every day and all of a sudden one day he's spooked. Well, every day he was actually going, I don't like it. I don't like it. You just didn't notice. Okay. So that mailbox was a threshold. So don't be surprised by thresholds. Nature put them there for a reason in the horse's brain. Watch out, because that's where predators lurk. Predators lurk at thresholds. X and O in daily practice. So watch out for your horse's X and O in the change and watch for your own. If you've been unconscious, you went O and you didn't mean to, or you're 2X and you didn't mean to, just pay attention to that stuff. Matching steps. You need to find your feet. Right now, don't worry so much about making the horse do something with their feet. Just work on yours. If you're really clear and concise and consistent with your feet, your horse is going to follow you because that's what they do, okay? Fun with feet. Again, go out and pick your knees up really high. Cross your legs. stand on one leg, do things like that, see what the horse does. Give them a full minute to process it and go, and you'll see them, they'll make an attempt. And if they do something that, I mean, I'm silly, I will clap, I'll be like, yay! Now, do they know what clapping means? Not necessarily, but they can feel the expression. Because I'm like, ooh, it's very exciting. And they genuinely feel that. Practice your target hand. Some horses love having a target hand to follow. Okay, some are not that into it, but some really, really love it. So it's worth it to try it out. Girth button. Really pay attention. If you've got shivers and faces and crunchy, all kinds of things around girth button, you have something that you need to really pay attention to. And just spend the time. Take the time it takes. I'd rather take a couple of days and get to be my horse's, best friend and have him not be afraid to have me touch him anywhere on his body than to just kind of muscle through it all the time. Okay. And this is how horses taught me how to start that process. Jump up button, very vulnerable. If you got a tickly girth button, you're probably got a tickly jump up button. Really watch the jump up button for breathing. If they look like they're paying attention, but that's locked and they're not breathing, you need to really pay attention and start taking some big breaths yourself and get that button opened up. The hip button, who's driving? If your horse is behind you, you've trained your horse to walk behind you, like those two little babies. Am I following you or am I driving you? If you have kind of an alpha horse who's behind and you've put him there on purpose, the horse's mind could be saying, do you want me to drive you? Am I the coyote kicker? Am I supposed to protect you? And those kinds of horses, when they're behind you, always feel like you've got to train behind you. Even if you've taught them to be there, even if they're minding their manners and doing it, there's just this intensity coming up behind you all the time. So if I have a real alpha horse, I don't want them behind me. I want them to know how to do it, if we need to, but that's not where I would want to lead from for that type of horse, because they're in the position of saying, well, you put me in the coyote kicker position, so that means I get to drive you. That's just what it means to them. So just be aware that it's not like there's a right and a wrong place for leading. There's a preferable place where horses are the most comfortable, and it tends to be mid-neck or shoulder button aimed more towards your shoulder. Okay, that's just more of a buddy up position. So we are coming to the end of today's lesson.
And now it's your turn to talk, folks. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. If you want to talk on the webinar with everyone else, there's only a few folks on, so won't be too many people hearing you talk over the computer, or do the question and answer part or the chat. Look forward to hearing anything you might want to say. Thank you, Sharon, for an excellent, wow. Okay, here we go. Hold on.
Yesterday was my first equine therapy session with the kids. I was given an Appaloosa name, Kenny, to lead. While getting to know each other, Kenny kept using whoa to stop and turn his head into me and pushy way over and over again. I kept using go away face until he gave up. Clearly, I was being tested. Then, with the child in the saddle, we rounded the corner near the gate. Each time we tried to make a beeline towards the gate, I tried turning my body in the right direction, lifting my arms, visualizing successfully rounding the corner, even shoving him. I finally shortened the circle so we didn't come near the gate, moved my hand closer up the lead rope near his head, and we mastered the turn. But I'm sure I could have done something more elegant that worked more effectively. Suggestions for next time, I'll probably get Kenny again. By the way, we did take a standing nap and rock the baby after that session. We're both exhausted, LOL. Okay, so I would say that you actually did all of the maneuvers that you needed to do. You had the added stress of the horse receiving information from their rider in a therapy session. Mm-hmm. So now you're adding a level of stress to the horse's experience. So part of that pushing and shoving is saying, the horse sometimes will be saying, I need help. Like, where are you? I need you to be even more of a strong person for me. And you did that. So you ended up being a little bit stronger than maybe you were comfortable being. But the horse was saying, I really need that strength from you because this might be hard for them to be doing. All right. So now that you know that, I would prepare in the future and have a little bit, you can have a 0 inside and be breathing and calm and happy, but have a stronger X presence on the outside, and it's sort of a, I've got you. And you could have a shorter lead rope, you can be prepared, Sounds like you did some good adaptive strategies in the moment. So now you know those are the strategies that work. And you could bring your hand a little bit more towards go away face more often, or you could even leave your hand in the air. So you can have a lead rope that's pretty short like this, but have your hand leading a little bit higher. Instead of, if your hand is lower, it can be signaling to the horse come back and get close again, like that. So if you have your hand a little bit more further from your body, like here, it just denotes the edge of your bubble. And the horse might have been saying, I'm unclear about, if you did bring your hand back down. Most people do. Most people bring the hand down, or they have it kind of under the chin. And to the horse, it feels like, I don't have any bubble here. So a lot of times therapy horses just need a little bit more space than you would normally do. So just leave your arm out a little bit further from your body, keeping that space at all times. Don't change it and forget and put your hand back down. Okay.
And leading, sometimes dropping back toward the girth line in an inside turn can also help give more space. You've had folks try that too.
It can, but in a therapy session,
you might
not be able to do that. So in that case, you can signal the neck. So
but on a normal day,
on a normal day, so you can signal here, or you can signal here if you have the opportunity to do so. If you can switch hands for a second or set yourself up. The thing I would recommend is, if you can, do some enrichment with that horse and take it out when there's no riders. See if you can do like 10 minutes in the ring alone, just you and the horse. Set up some barrels and some cones and some things to weave with, and practice these kind of leading maneuvers without a rider. So you and the horse can sort some things out, so that then when you add a rider to the equation, you already have sorted it out with the horse. Now you just have a rider on top of it, instead of me and the horse and this question and the rider and the teacher and the lesson, where there's a lot of different stressors. So that would be my advice. Like I described, giving the horse a long, slow stroke, I often see riders rewarding their horse for a job well done with several brisk, hard slaps on the neck. This seems counterintuitive. Why do riders do this? Sorry about all the caps. Dog on a lap. I don't know why. It's kind of like
I think it's the dog thing too.
No. I think it's a tradition for people to go slap, slap, slap on the neck. Yeah. I think that people have a lot of energy, especially if they're like, yeah, and they're pumped. So they're like, yeah, it'd be like if I was like, yeah, but it's not really.
You do it a lot with dogs.
You'd be like, yeah, so it's just an inappropriate contact for the species. And hopefully more people will become aware of it.
Wasn't there something about that we had seen?
Yeah, there's an article
research about that slapping thing.
There's a whole research
if Heidi's
paper
going
or
to probably
something,
look it up and
we could send
attach
it.
with the study guide.
Hi, Sharon and Laura. Grace here, back from Vermont. Yesterday, I got my 4-year-old gelding after getting home, and my friend was on my mare and ponying my other mare, and noticed that my gelding preferred to be behind them. And now I'm thinking he may have chosen to be the coyote kicker. When he's out with another gelding, he likes being in front. What do you think? That's interesting. He might have actually been more, it would depend on, I'd have to see the horses, okay? Because perhaps he was putting himself there. That's completely possible. Or perhaps he was putting himself more in a follower position to sort of stay out of the way and not cause problems. Again, the other horse had a rider. So when a horse has a rider, it's changed the dynamic. And I've known some horses that are very timid and even insecure, and they get a rider on them, they start pushing the other horses around like, I've got a rider, you move. So that horse might have been saying, uh-oh, I better get behind and just stay out of the way because they've got a rider, so they're up in the hierarchy. He could have been feeling like, I'll protect this pair. So I would have to see the horses and look at their facial expressions and, the quality of the movement from the position. But it's definitely worth thinking about. And, and that's what Horse Speak is all about. Just like going, interesting. Let me see it again. Let me take some pictures and see in the photographs if I can tell what's going on. See, my horse is really sensitive in the girth area and is jumpy when tightening up the girth. How can I help his defense, help desensitize? Right. So that's everything I was talking about start with no saddling girth and start with your hold hand 5 feet away. Maybe they're in the cross size, or maybe they're just in a small pen so that they have liberty to move around. And can I even aim my palm at your girth? And if the horse goes, whoa, then you don't have that. So a lot of girthy horses actually need to go through this process, and it doesn't take a long time. In fact, it goes a lot faster than you'd think, because what you're saying is, you know what, I want to make sure we're okay. And horses want to be okay. They don't want to be stressed. They don't want to be anxious. And so they might not love it. I've got one mare that does not love putting her girth on, and every time she will kind of pull a face, but she won't do anything.
She was really good.
She was great. But for many years, she would pull a face, but she would I could saddle and girth her completely loose, not ground tied, just her choice. She's loose. So she was giving me a green light, but her personal feeling was like, I just don't like that sensation. So I would start with the hold hand, get in, get out, make sure it's smooth, make sure it's soft, it's friendly. We can be there together. And then when you're actually doing the girthing process, what works best is to pull the girth up and breathe out and then put it down. Don't attach it. Up, down, up, down, up, down.
Slower than that, though.
Yeah, not that fast. You just do it and do it and do it. And usually by the third or fourth time, they kind of go, okay.
They really like that.
They really do. And they might not love it. You might not, they might be in a yellow. They're like, just do it, get it over with. But it's not the like red zone. So that's what I've done. And it's been very successful. So I would try that.
That is it for the moment.
All right.
Someone else pops in something.
Okay.
Good questions.
These are great questions. Thank you so much. And,
one new message.
Remember that Horse Speak is based on the evidence of the experiences that I've had, but the evidence that I've gathered, not only watching what horses do with each other, but how do we interpret that with our body shape, with our mind, with the way that we process information? How do we, close approximation to what they do with each other? Let's see. And yesterday at equine therapy, we were moving around the circle. A horse behind me decided to take a dirt bath in the middle of the program with the child on top.
Oh, geez.
Oh, geez. No one was hurt, thankfully. But that was the horse I was supposed to have led. How might using Horse Speak have prevented that? That's tricky. So, I would think that, I can stop a horse from going down to a dirt bath with a sharp go-away face or a sharp go-away neck. So like doing, it's kind of like, it brings them out of that temptation to get down
Scoop
there.
up.
Yeah, you can also do a scoop up. If your palm is down on lead rope, you could do a scoop up, and that kind of turns like this and prevents them from going down. And, it's just a very unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
I'm really glad it didn't happen to you. But if you ever lead that horse, now you know that that's in there, so you would be prepared for those things. And I commend you people that volunteer at therapy programs or rescues, because it's a tough work, and it's just such a wonderful thing that people offer and that people do. And so, anything that I can do to try to help you out, I'm just really happy to do that.
Especially a lot of folks who do get involved have maybe a little bit of experience
or varieties of backgrounds.
Yeah, so it's really great to dive in and try to help out the horses as well, be a part of such a great healing process. It's really great for you to do that. All right. Anyone else?
Someone here?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll see you in a little bit for week number 6.
31st of July. So lots of time to be able to play with your horses and think of any questions. And if you do have any questions in the meantime, shoot them over to Heidi. If she can't answer them, she will send them our way. So y'all take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.